Hey, pastors, here's a training topic for those of you who want to get serious about making disciples in your church. We're going to talk about the 5 priorities of a Pursue God pastor. Turns out that creating a discipleship culture takes a whole new set of priorities for pastors. It's not going to be what you learned in seminary. Now, we've identified these 5 primary priorities. You need to disciple, train, hand off, follow up, and celebrate. But before we get to that, let's make sure we see where it comes from biblically. Ephesians 4, Paul said that the gifts Christ gave to the church are the pastors and teachers. And verse 12, your responsibility is to equip God's people to do his work and build up the church, the body of Christ. So you can either do all the ministry and work in the ministry, or you can do the things that help you to work on the ministry. In other words, you can equip God's people to work in the ministry, and you can zoom out a little bit and work on the ministry. I think that's what Paul's talking about here. So the first priority then is you should be making disciples, but do it in the way that you want others to make disciples. In other words, don't expect people to do something you aren't already doing. Now, technically, when I make disciples, I'm not doing it as a pastor. I'm doing it as a follower of Jesus. But if I'm not willing to be the kind of follower that takes the Great Commission seriously, then nobody else will in my ministry either. The important thing here, in my opinion, is to disciple in a reproducible way. So I use our church's partner page at PursueGOD.org, and I disciple exactly the way I want other people to disciple. That means I start by engaging people, and that's what milestone 1 is all about. Eventually, I move on to the second phase, which is to establish them in the pursuit. That's what milestone number 2 is all about. And then when we successfully complete that, we finally get to milestone number 3. Remember, the point here is to make disciples in a reproducible way. So that's modeling the disciple-making strategy of PursueGOD.org. And then you can move on to the second thing, which is to train people. And the truth is, as you disciple them and bring them through the pursuit, you'll be training them to do the same thing. But you have to be sure to finish the job. What that means is if I start engaging someone with those featured topics at the top of the page, but I never move on to the next part, the pursuit, then I'm going to be stalling out. And if I don't get all the way to topics 10, 11, and 12 in the pursuit, which is the training section, then I'm clearly not going to be able to empower them to go do the same thing. So that's what we mean by finishing the job. I have to be disciplined to make sure that I engage, then establish and finish the job so that I can empower them to go make disciples. Now, once you've trained some people to disciple the way you're discipling them, you'll probably need to leverage the institution, your church, by handing off people who need mentors to people who are equipped to mentor. Now, we call this the handoff, and this part's really important. I've noticed with a lot of the people that I've discipled is that they're willing to do it, but they're not really sure who to do it with yet. And that's where our church can come into play. We run our events, our Sunday morning services, everything. We run all of that to try to generate handoff opportunities. We call them mentor requests. And once someone requests a mentor, whether through a physical form or an online form, then your pastoral team can connect them to someone who's ready to mentor them. Again, that's called the handoff. And after that, then you can do what's called following up. Now, we recommend tracking milestones on your partner page, and then pastors make a habit of following up with mentors as they work through those 3 E's. So again, looking at our partner page, we train our mentors to log each milestone as they get to it. When they fill out this form, in our case, it goes into our workflows in Planning Center, and then our pastors can follow up with emails or phone calls or texts. Now, if you're not tracking those 3 simple milestones, right, the engage, establish, and empower milestones, then it's going to be really hard to track where people are in the process. That's why we encourage partner churches to share forms with us that we can embed on your partner page so that you can do this important step. I'll put a link below if you want to request some of those updates to your partner page. And then there's one last thing, and that's to celebrate. We think that you need to be intentional about celebrating the wins as people make disciples who make disciples. In fact, the best way to do it is to do it publicly. Now, most churches already celebrate the win of baptism, which is biblical, so we should continue to do that. But we also encourage churches to celebrate it anytime someone finishes the pursuit, because that means one more person is ready to get in the game and make disciples. And why not platform that on a Sunday morning to make disciple making clearly something that you do as a cultural priority? So pastors, make a list of some of the things that you do in a typical week and compare it to these top 5 priorities that you should be doing if you want to create a discipleship culture.